I never liked that being employed and hitting a ceiling and sort of, okay, this is what you're going to be doing for the next few years. That just never really appealed to me. I've always got these ideas tinkering around in my head. Some of them are terrible. Some of them are great. I've got a wonderful business partner that helps me sort of measure those. So it's the way I'm made. I couldn't imagine doing anything else other than being able to make the decisions for myself about where I'm going and where my company goes with me.
This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. Chris, welcome to Construction Genius.
Thanks for having me on, Eric. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. I love having entrepreneurs on who are involved in the construction industry. So I'd like to just kick it off right away. Why don't you just introduce yourself to the audience and let us know a little bit about what motivated you to become an entrepreneur?
Sure. So I'm president of Dynamic Construction DC Materials. I've been a framing carpenter for my entire adult life, which for the last 28 years. We're a turnkey framing contractor, which means we provide not just carpentry labor, but also material for the projects we build. We focus on large multifamily buildings, kind of 50,000 square feet to 400,000 square feet. What motivated me to become an entrepreneur? I guess it's sort of been this, I'm always bored. I want to move on to the next thing. I never liked that sort of being employed and hitting a ceiling and sort of, okay, this is what you're going to be doing for the next few years. That just never really appealed to me. I've always got these ideas tinkering around in my head. Some of them are terrible. Some of them are great. I've got a wonderful business partner that helps me sort of measure those. So it's the way I'm made. I couldn't imagine doing anything else other than being able to make the decisions for myself about where I'm going and where my company goes with me.
So you use this word bored, which is interesting. What do you mean by bored?
I want to do new, interesting things. I think there's a big difference between, a businessman and an entrepreneur in that I'm not as interested in sort of making sure that I get every last dime out of a project that I can. I want to do new stuff, and profit's important and cash flow is important, and I need to keep my business open and I need to make this worth my while. But I like the idea of building stairs off site. And will I make more money that way? Maybe. I don't know. Let's find out. So I don't want to just sort of invent this thing, have this thing in place and do that for the next 20 years. That sounds awful. I want to be innovating and pushing the envelope and doing new stuff within what I'm already doing.
And was that sense of boredom, you could say, has that always been with you from a young age where you always were looking for new things to do and as you became an adult, it got manifested, so to speak, in running a business?
Yeah, good question. From a young age, I didn't do well in traditional education at all. I didn't see the point of school. And when I got out into the real world and I wasn't working in books and sort of this in my head, and I could interact with real physical objects and build real things, that appealed to me immediately, right? And so, I don't know. I know that from a young age, I was made to be a carpenter. And still, even as I have a nice warm office and I get to sit at a keyboard all the time, I still consider myself a carpenter. I think that's one of the big pieces why we're successful as a company is we kind of keep that core value, but a little bit off the path there. But
no, yeah, that's good.
I think it was always made to sort of bounce around, and I need things that keep my interest.
But let's just talk about that real quick, because you identify yourself as a carpenter, but just tell the audience, roughly how large is your company revenue-wise, employee-wise?
Yeah, we've got about anywhere from 100 to 150 guys out building. Revenue varies, but baseline's about $25 million a year.
So in other words, this is not like a one-man show, a two-man show kind of thing.
No.
And so the entrepreneur's dilemma many times is they start the business doing what they love doing and identified as a carpenter. But, as your business grows, the amount of time you get to spend being a carpenter kind of flips, right?
Absolutely.
As your business grew, how did you handle that? Did you just maintain that sort of, I'm the spirit of a carpenter, or do you actually go out onto the job site or wherever you are and then work with your hands still? What happens there?
Yeah. There's a few different ways that I guess you'd say I give my fix. My wife and I decided to start building a cabin 4 years ago. So every other weekend for the last 4 years, I drive up north 4 hours and build my cabin and do carpenter stuff. I'm almost done, which is good and good for my marriage.
Hold on. What's good? Is it that you're out of the house for every other weekend? Or that you're building the cabin?
I think, she learned how to drive an all-terrain forklift when we were doing the siding. And so
there you go.
Great collaboration. And
there you go.
I think that kind of thing can, and this is not construction related, that kind of thing can strengthen your marriage or destroy it. And luckily for us, it's really strengthened our marriage. So the other part of it is pitch ourselves as different than the rest of our competitors in our market. We're competing with labor-only framing contractors and lumberyards, local lumberyards. So we've got a unique value proposition in that I can open up a plan and I can address both the labor side and the material side. I can choose to pay more for a certain material that's going to expedite the labor process, right? And so when I open up a plan bid, I've got a unique advantage and I look at it as a carpenter and I can create unique value propositions, value engineering opportunities that my competitors can't. And so in that way, I'm still very much operating like the carpenter, thinking like the carpenter and doing that work. It just happens to be in PDFs and markups and all that stuff.
So I want to get back to that, your decision there to be both a labor provider and a materials provider. Before we get there, I just want to back up one little step.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to parents who have children or a child who is obviously, they're not lazy, they're smart, but they're just not set out for the system of schooling?
Right.
What advice would you, obviously, you went through that process. I don't know if your parents had expectations for you to go to university or something like that, and they had to work it through. Tell us a little bit about that from your perspective.
Yeah, it's a really good life. And there's construction's so big and so broad, and there are so many opportunities. And the thing that I really love about it is, generally speaking, you're only limited by as much responsibility as you're willing to take in construction. So if you're the kind of person who wants to succeed, people will load responsibility onto you.
Yes.
And it's so vast. And I think people who are not in it have a hard time wrapping their head around the different opportunities, the different avenues a guy can take. Me, for example, could have been a union carpenter, put in my 20 and had a nice retirement, right?
Yep.
Go from 55 on. Self-employment, the route I chose. Small general contracting. You get and framer's just the best route, I think, to get into small general contract. And be a good framer, you've got to know a little bit about every trade to do it well. So there's so many different avenues. And my advice to the parents would be sort of take a little bit of time and understand those different avenues and make sure your kid understands it as well and you can support them. I was 17 years old swinging a hammer, and all I knew is I liked getting a tan. I didn't see anything laid out in front of me. If I would have had a broader view of what was out there, I could have shot for that earlier.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. So then let's go to this idea of building a business and describe in a little more detail the business model that you guys have chosen or that you're involved in at the moment with the combination of labor and materials.
Yeah. So I was a labor-only framing contractor. I had 15 to 20 employees building 60,000 square foot apartment buildings, wearing a tool belt every day. I had reached the pinnacle of success. Pay out all my guys, and whatever money was left over, I got to put in my pocket, and that seemed like a good business to me. There's a few things that I didn't like. I was beholden to the local lumberyard and their schedule and how good their takeoff and estimate was. And really, the pace at which I could get the materials I needed was a make or break profitability for me. And so there's a lot of really good guys who just sell lumber out there. There's some guys who make the sale and then phone it in the rest of the time. When you get the phone it in guys, I would lose money. In 2014, I met some guys from the mid-Atlantic who were carpenters, but they were also businessmen. And the big difference was they had control of the material. Because they controlled the material, they could set their labor up for success. They made a profit on that material. It helped support back-end office staff, all the kind of operations you need to put these buildings together really, really well. So owning the material piece is about control and being able to make sure that my guys have everything they need when they need it to absolutely be successful. So, and that was at the time, and it still is, we're unique in Wisconsin. We're the only turnkey framing contractor that is not buying from local lumberyards. We buy from mills. We buy from wholesalers. We've got a lot of the relationship. We've got all the relationships you need to do it successfully.
So let's explore that a little bit. Do you think that this strategy is implementable, let's say, if you're an electrical contractor or if you're a plumbing contractor or a HVAC contractor? Do you think that's an implementable strategy?
I'll tell you what, you're talking about supply chain and you're breaking into supply chain, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, when you're dealing with commodities and lumber is very much commodity, there's a lot of people in that supply chain that kind of add value, but not really, right? So a local lumberyard, I can go get 5 pieces of whatever. I don't have to buy a full unit. But when you're dealing with commodities, people tend to circle the wagons, be very protective of what they've got. And that is just the relationship with the guy above them. So yes, absolutely. If you're interested in getting into that, starting to understand the supply chain, the relationships, what the requirements are to work yourself into that space, absolutely it can be done. It took me about 1.5 years. A lot of phone calls, some luck, but turns out well worth my time. What you're trying to do is you're trying to break into a supply chain with people who probably don't want you in that supply chain.
Yeah, sure.
Somebody's getting cut out in the end.
So you said it took you 1.5 years. How did you actually get to the point that you're at now? Was it like a flash of insight? I need to control the supplies, or you're like, there was this one job where you happened to be able to get some lumber and you built it and you're like, dude, I made some more money on that and I had better control. How did it happen?
I've been very involved with the National Framers Council. It's a national trade association that represents framing contractors. I gave a presentation at our annual summit and just in passing mentioned that I wanted to get into turnkey lumber.
So it was just an idea to begin with then, just an
idea, right? And I'd met these other framers who did it, right, outside of my market, but lumber doesn't travel well, so you need local guys to be willing to sell you. One of the guys in the audience was what we call a jobber. A jobber is a lumber guy who buys from mills, trucks into railroad reload stations, and sells mixed loads via semi directly to job sites. So this jobber saw that I was in a leadership position, saw I had a lot of potential, and said, hey, let's work this out. I'll help you out. So I had that piece. I needed components. I needed to buy trusses. We're a wall panel market, so I needed to find a way to buy wall panels. I convinced a local component manufacturer to take the risk and sell me. And why did he take that risk? He took the risk because he saw an opportunity to use me as a vehicle into the markets that he was not in already. Your bolsters and else. And so it was a lot of talking. It was a lot of vision casting. It was a lot of letting people know that this is a big idea and I'm going to be a big deal. And if you want to get in early, it's going to pay dividends. And it has. It has for those people. The component manufacturer I buy from went from $20 million to a $70 million company in 7 years. I'm their number one customer. It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of talking, building relationships, getting people to trust you, understanding who they're already selling to, who they're going to piss off if they start selling me, and making sure that you're addressing those concerns, right?
It's interesting. So in other words, you had to do some persuading, some selling, so to speak. How do those people who you began to partner with, how do they now balance their relationships with those people who they've pissed off?
Sure. I think at least in my world, it's understanding who my key customers are, who my competitors' key customers are. It's all sales. It's all just making sure that the other guys know that you're going to take care of them.
Yeah.
I think that I've done a lot of work on my part. This office that I'm sitting in is a lumberyard showroom. Now I have a showroom. I'm established as a local lumber retailer. That's all the reason my vendors need to be able to legitimately sell me and not upset the other lumberyards in my market, right? And so it's sort of, you're threading the needle anytime you work in supply chain. And so you got to use the right words in the right situations.
It's interesting. Jeff Bezos of Amazon has an insight when it comes to building a business. And that is not so much looking for new things to do that no one has ever thought of before, but taking the things that people really want and doing them excellently. And that's what you do in construction, right? You build spaces for people to live in, to work in. You build structures that people can use. And human beings are always going to need that. The question isn't finding necessarily something new, but doing what you're doing in a better way. And one of the keys to that is you improving your leadership. So you know how to build projects, but leading and developing a high-performing team presents a different challenge. And that's why I've created The Shift. The Shift is my online, self-paced leadership course. It has 5 modules, and it's designed to help you to improve your leadership right away. So go out to theshift.constructiongenius.com to learn more about the course. The links are in the show notes. The one thing that I do with the course is I guarantee it 100%. So if you invest in the course and you take it and you learn how to develop your time management skills, how to communicate better with your team, how to run effective meetings, how to build a high-performing team, how to manage yourself, if you go through that whole course and you don't get the value that you invest in your time and your money, just contact me. It's 100% guaranteed. I will send you your money back with a smile on my face. So go out to theshift.constructiongenius.com and learn how to be a more effective leader by taking that course. All right, let's get back to the interview. Okay, so now what's interesting here is that many people can relate to what you said earlier about sort of being unemployable at a young age. And then also wanting to work with your hands, enjoying being out on the job site as a young man. But an element that you've brought into the conversation here is this idea of being able to communicate well or sell your ideas to other people. Is that something that you've always been capable of doing, or is that something that's developed over the years? Tell us a little bit about that, because I think that right there is perhaps a key element that many people miss when it comes to actually growing a business.
Yeah. I've developed it over the years. I think it's a skill. I think it's a skill that's no different than being able to build an exterior wall quickly. The more you do it, and the more you exercise that muscle, the stronger the muscle gets. I think I've been pretty natural about it. I didn't realize that it was a skill or recognize it as a skill until I was in my late 30s.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. What did it take for you to recognize that? Was that other people telling you, hey, Chris, you're really good at sales? Or were you just seeing that you were able to persuade people to do things which, you know what I mean?
Yeah. People started telling me what I was doing was unique and that I should be proud of what I was doing.
Interesting.
And in my mind, I've always just been, I'm just a carpenter who does what he says he can do.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, what's unique about this situation, right? And it's just being able to, having the confidence to go out there and make a pitch and believe in it. I don't BS anybody on the things that I'm saying. Everything I say, I believe. I think there's a big part of that. Yeah, it's a muscle, and it's a muscle that I really enjoy working.
It's interesting. So as it comes to business building, you talked about this idea of being bored. You've talked about this idea of, having these big ideas, obviously, that you've got to integrate or execute or at least get going. And there's often this dichotomy in business and life where there's someone who sees stuff and then someone who does stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes you got this, the picture of this visionary who has all these killer ideas but no execution muscle, or this guy who executes but isn't necessarily seeing the big picture.
Yeah.
You mentioned your business partner earlier. Tell us a little bit about that and how that dynamic works. And with your business partner, is he doing something that you're not capable of doing? And is that contributing to the business? How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So interesting thing, he was my competitor and we had a good collegial relationship. Always friends, always checking references with Jeff and general contractors, always had a good relationship.
So he was a framing contractor.
He was a framing contractor.
Okay.
Yep. And so can't say enough about just have a decent relationship with your competitors. It can benefit you. So Eli was really, really good at executing labor. I mean, he was the best in our state and everybody knew it. He could build any building in about 8 weeks, every single time, consistently. So he had a tremendous amount of credibility. I'm here bringing this new system in, and I've got a good reputation. I don't have Eli's sterling reputation. So it took a while, but after about a year, I convinced him to come on and partner with me. His credibility lent to my system. Over the course of the next 3 years, we grew 1,126%, right? He had that credibility because he had systems in place, because he's the operations guy. He's the nuts and bolts. Here's how we're going to do this. Here's how we're going to do that. So yeah, very much he compliments me in that when I walk into his office and I've got a wild idea, he puts a little bit of reality to it. So usually when I go in there and he likes something that I'm saying, it's a good test of whether or not we should try to take some next steps on that. So very much he complements my vision casting with what he can execute in the real world or what he thinks we can't execute in the real world.
Who initiated the idea of a partnership?
I did.
Okay.
Yep.
How did you go about that? What was that conversation like?
He had just closed shop. He had shut down his business and committed to taking a project management position with a local general contractor.
Why did he do that?
His brother had moved away, decided to move to North Carolina, and they had sort of made all their money, and they were both kind of a little bored. Same kind of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so he was just looking to do something else. And so I called him up. I said, hey, I've been working on this thing and you're available now and you need to come work with me and we're going to grow this big company. And it caught his attention, but he had already made a commitment, right? Mm-hmm. And so he ends up getting shoved into an office for 10 hours a day. Construction project manager is sort of this thankless job where you respond to 100 emails a day and it just, you're in that chair grinding.
Yeah.
And, a lot different than being a self-employed framing contractor. So I kept pestering him and eventually he says, yeah, let's give this a try. Let's do it.
So are you guys in a business partnership? You are. Okay. You don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, but how did you structure it in terms of the ownership piece?
Yeah, it was a 50-50 ownership.
Okay. So let's talk about that. If you don't mind.
Yeah.
I've worked with many partnerships over the years and there's lots of different philosophies on 50-50 versus 51-49 or whatever the case is. There's obviously many ways to skin the cat. Why did you go 50-50?
It's a trust thing. I think the general attitude is we're in it together and we win together, succeed or lose. That's what I wanted. I wanted an all in from him. And that 1% makes a huge difference on the attitude.
Yes.
When I walk into his office and say, I want to start doing X, that 1% can absolutely influence his reaction to that because he knows if I wanted to, I could do it if I wanted to anyway, right? We're equal partners. He has an equal say in all of that. And that's not to say that I would never necessarily do that with other people. It's really making those kind of decisions. It's about reading people. It's about understanding people, character, what you're trying to get out of it, what they're trying to get out of it. 10% equity in some kind of venture can motivate a guy to do a lot of things, right? So what do you want out of it? That number should reflect that. And what does this guy need to get out of it? That's all very much, I think, I don't want to say feel, but you got to understand it. You got to understand the layout in a real holistic, full way to make those kind of choices. So.
Quick break. Hope you're enjoying my interview with Chris. I know I am. Here, my book. You got to get this book. It's so awesome. Construction Genius, effective, hands-on, practical, simple, no BS, leadership, sales, strategy, and marketing advice for construction companies. The reason it's so awesome is because it's very simple to read the book, take one idea, implement it into your leadership, and see the difference immediately. And the great news is the book is only $19.99 on Amazon. So all you have to do is go to Amazon, read all of the reviews. We have over 50 reviews with a 5-star average. And the insights there are what people say about the book is, I couldn't have said that myself. So read them, because it'll give you some pictures of the benefit of buying the book, and then get yourself a copy. Kindle, you can go on Audible, you can go soft copy. If you're feeling posh, you can get a hardback copy, and you can get one for not only you, but everyone in your leadership team, because you guys can read it as a book club and discuss it and hold each other accountable for the application of the information. And if you buy 10 or more copies, shoot me an email, eric@constructiongenius.com, and I will schedule with you a free 1-hour question and answers and bonus leadership training session with your team as a thank you for getting those 10 plus copies. And that's a $3,500 value. Let's get back to the interview. So then, do you guys have a specific process in place when you come up with an idea and you bring it to your partner, to Eli, and say, Eli, this is my idea? Is there a process that you have in place for going through that idea? Or is it like a gut feel? Or is it like, no, we don't have the capacity right now for that, we should focus on this? How do you guys go about that?
So we're a big business, large construction business in terms of revenue. We're still very much a small business in terms of the way we operate. So we're short on processes, which makes us really agile. We can react quickly, make decisions quickly, but there's things we lose. You can get bogged down and by not having processes in place. For us to make decisions, it's really just, we talk through ideas. We think about the different parts and pieces of those ideas and talk through the entire thing. If we decide there's something that we like that we're going to do, usually I'm the one sort of putting all of that together in practice.
What do you mean by that?
We need to start an inventory management system, right? I'm the one who's going out and researching and discovering and talking and signing contracts and learning the system to implement it, right? And Eli's in the background, making sure we're continuing to make money and the wheels are staying on the tracks.
It's interesting.
Yep.
Do you guys have a regular meeting schedule where you guys meet as partners?
We don't. And we've been in this office for a couple months now. And I think those things are out on the horizon. It's been sort of talking as we need to, but sort of scheduling those kinds of things is something that we need to start doing, I think.
Okay. So even though you're not doing it, you would recommend that to partners to... Okay. Yeah. I know that's just something that I've seen, again, working with partnerships over the years, is that a lot of times they struggle because they don't have regular meetings where they're able to communicate and deal with issues and talk about stuff.
I've had partnerships where I need to spend an hour on the phone every day with my business partner because I need to keep him informed on way things are tracking and where things are going. In this partnership, just so happens, I get a tremendous amount of trust from Eli and vice versa. And so we major the majors and minor the minors with each other, and it works really well.
Yeah. Excellent. As you're running a business, it sounds like there's a lot that's on your plate. How do you maintain your energy and stay motivated?
And some days easier than others.
Let me ask you this. What do you do because there's days we get up, right, and we're hitting the ground running and everything's awesome and, we just kind of go for it. And then there's days when everything sucks and it's challenging.
Yeah.
What do you do to manage yourself through those troughs or those dips, so to speak?
Yeah, I try to focus on the long game, try to think of more long term. The short term, it can kill you. You don't get a job that you've been pushing for a few months. I got a great relationship with my wife, and my wife is a corporate slave. She's project management for a huge evil mega corporation, right? And so I talk with her about how things are going, and she kind of comes from a completely different world and can give me really good perspective on things. When you're sitting in an office for 10 hours a day in meetings talking about what I do for a living is pretty great. And so putting that into good context is important.
Yeah. Do you set boundaries in your personal life in any way between business and personal so that there isn't a sort of a cross pollination, or is it just like, nah, I'm not even going to try that? And, if it comes up, it comes up.
Because it came from this small contractor background, you don't have a choice about it in that. And your phone rings, you have to answer, you get a text message, you have to reply. And so I'll say this, I've gotten better at not immediately reacting to phone calls and emails, nights and weekends. I tend to, so at best, I'm cognizant of it. I'm cognizant of that pull and that it exists.
Right.
I'm also cognizant that my kids notice when I'm answering the phone. So if I'm going to answer the phone, it should be something important. But it's
it's interesting. It's interesting though, because I was talking to a guy, I was interviewing him a little while ago, and, he came from an entrepreneurial background, and, his dad and his grandfather were just grinders.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes you hear, from people, well, oh, my dad wasn't there for me because but he was like, dude, I saw that as an example to me. Actually, you may know the Cullens, the GC Cullen?
Yeah. I know.
Okay. So I've interviewed them a number of times.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're pretty interesting. Tell me, how much are you familiar with them?
We kind of work in different sandboxes. I know one of the Cullens was working on joining the Young Presidents Organization that I'm a member of.
Oh, great. Which one? Who was working on it?
Jeannie.
Jeannie, yeah, she's cool. Dude, she's awesome.
Yeah.
She's awesome. But it's interesting because I was talking to Jeannie and George, and it's interesting. They have an interesting dynamic because they're brother and sister, and they're co-presidents of the company.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how their dad used to just grind. And then he'd come home and he'd have dinner, and then he'd go back and grind.
Okay,
and they're not talking about that in the sense of, man, and my dad never saw me at all. They see this as a sort of an example of someone who was tremendously committed and worked hard, and that had a tremendous positive impact on them.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I think my kids probably see that from time to time. For me, the most important piece of it is whether or not I can turn it off mentally when I'm with them.
Sure.
If I'm present with them, or if I'm thinking about a way that I need to land a job or some strategy, whatever. Got really good at over the years at sort of being able to put that away mentally. So
yeah, that's interesting. So where do you see your business going in the next 5 to 10 years? And what do you see as some external factors that you're looking out for that are going to impact the way that your business develops?
Yeah. One of the M&A is big everywhere right now. And M&A construction and material supply is big. USLBM and Build Assure Source are buying up local lumberyards, component manufacturers. And so you can't be doing what I'm doing without being cognizant of that all the time. And when somebody gets scooped, it can change relationships quickly. And so the way that puts pressure on the market, pressure on relationships, it's interesting. It's something, it's unpredictable. But you have to be cognizant of it. I think construction overall, you talk about the housing and housing crisis. How do we build more affordable housing? What's the most expensive thing in construction? In my opinion, it's risk. Risk is anything unpredictable or different or new. And the way we've structured our business, I've mitigated a lot of the material risk, right?
Right.
I think I would like to see more businesses sort of stepping up and bringing a new level of professionalism in what they do. I think that can help cut costs.
What do you mean by professionalism?
If you go to general contractor, have a small house yourself, you're going to get all kinds of different bids, proposals. You're going to get bids via text message.
Yeah.
Guys calling you and saying, I can do it for this if I can start next week. I mean, and you're going to get really well formatted, very clear, scope defined bids, right? I think those guys need to start succeeding more. The guys who are putting in the time, the guys who are bringing professionalism and making sure that they're ensuring the process is going to be smooth. Risk costs money. General contractors can partner with subcontractors that they know there's very little risk on. It helps everybody. And so more professionalism in construction. So I think we're going to continue to grow market share, but I would love to see people come in, guys who I'm competing with now, get into doing what I'm doing and sort of raise the bar, even the playing field, and I'll beat you anyway, my opinion. So
are you looking to expand geographically?
We've got a little bit into the Milwaukee market. We're in a really good spot where I don't want to say we pick our jobs because I'm selling a commodity. So I always have to win on price when it comes to lumber. My labor is hands down the best in South Central Wisconsin. So where we're at, we can get as much work as we want without traveling too far. But
Right.
yeah, I'd like to get into Milwaukee. There's some guys who do what I do nationwide.
Where they combine the lumber and the labor?
Yeah, I'm not totally convinced that you can sort of deliver an outstanding customer experience being a nationwide guy.
Yep.
Something I keep thinking about, bounces around in there. So growing our business, growing our territories slightly, more strategic partnerships, all those things, whatever's fun.
That's great. Tell me about that picture on your wall there.
It's a Finnish painting called Under the Yoke. And my wife is a Finnish citizen, moved to America 9 years ago. And so I love the painting. And I bought this painting during the lumber run-up of 2021 because this is very much the hellscape we were all living in, buying and selling lumber. I bought it for one for myself and one for my lumber trader partner. And so when I look at it, it's very much a reminder that it could be worse.
Okay, so tell us about the picture. What's going on there? And by the way, if you're listening to the podcast, you got to go to the YouTube to see what I'm talking about here.
It's a girl and her father in rural Finland breaking the land down for crops. So they're digging up stumps, and there's a fire in the background, and they're burning all of the brush and getting everything ready. And their clothes are torn and covered in soot. And there's this little girl who's probably 11 years old, just staring straight at you. And she looks exhausted. And sometimes you can feel that way when you're an entrepreneur, right? But that's a lot harsher reality than me having to make 10 phone calls after 5 p.m. to make sure something goes right the next day. So it gives good perspective.
I like that a lot, Chris. So tell us just a little bit more. If people want to get in contact with you, learn more about your business, what you're doing, how can they do that?
Yeah, thanks. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. So if anybody wants to follow up with me on LinkedIn, send me a direct message, mentorship, advice, or just pitching me an idea. That's all fine with me. I enjoy it a lot. I'm active in the National Framers Council. I'm their past president. If you're a framing contractor and you want to grow your business, you want to find new ways to succeed, or you just have a problem that you want a second set of eyes on, you can join the Framers Council. It's a great group of professional framing contractors. One of the reasons I've grown my business. And you can find my contact information on their website as well. So I've talked to hundreds of framers across the country over the years. I give advice, and I often learn just as much as I sort of put out there.
That's great. We will have links in the show notes. And when you mentioned this idea of pitching you an idea, what kind of ideas are you looking for?
Anything innovative and new. We use the bot mark system right now for marking out our wall placement. It's a total station system developed by 2 framers out of South Dakota. It's great. It's wonderful technology, right? So if you got a thing like that, sounds good. You can try to sell me lumber, and there's no shortage of guys who want to sell trucks of lumber. Good luck. And anything that's out there, I'm always interested in learning more.
Awesome. Well, Chris, I really have enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate you joining us. And, I look forward to getting you back on the show at some point and continuing the conversation.
Well, thanks. I've enjoyed it as well. So thanks for having me on.
Thank you for listening to my interview with Chris today. Feel free to go to the show notes, check out the links to his LinkedIn page, connect with him there on LinkedIn. And there's also other links in the show notes to the things that we've discussed, including the Construction Genius book and the Shift Leadership course. Tremendous resources there for you to help you improve as a leader. Thank you for listening to Construction Genius here today, and share this episode with other people that you think would enjoy it. Give us a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you for listening to this episode of Construction Genius. Hope you found that 1% of inspiration to help you in the next few days. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes, share it with other construction leaders who you think would benefit, and always remember that the show is brought to you by Kick-Ass Meetings. I've been working with construction leaders since 2004, teaching them how to run extremely effective problem-solving meetings that gets their people collaborating, taps into their creativity. And to get yourself a free copy of the Kick-Ass Meeting Report, go to www.ericanderton.com/kickassmeetings. Grab yourself that free report, read it, use it in your business. You'll find it extremely useful. And thanks again for listening.